Hey there. I'm going to get my footing. It's a little slippery on these rocks. I'm Dave. I'm here to talk about Dave's Picks Volume 13, which is probably on sale right now. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, it is. So, first of all, get over to DeadNet, unless you're watching it there, because they sell out really fast. The last few have sold out in, I think, a few hours. So if you happen to see this and you want it, which I think you do, this is a tremendous show. As you're probably aware, because we announced it many months ago, it is February 24th, 1974. During the Grateful Dead's first run of shows in 1974. Dead started 74 at Winterland with 3 shows, ended 74 with 5 shows at Winterland. Of course, that's the Grateful Dead movie stuff that they filmed, and did all the multi-track, but we know enough about that. These shows, some really loud ducks out there. Kind of barking in my ear, quacking. I guess not barking. And so they started out with 3 shows, February 22nd, 23rd, 24th, with essentially kind of a prototype of the Wall of Sound, which, as you probably know, was debuted a month later on March 23rd at the Cow Palace. Now, if you're a tape collector back in the day, which you probably were if you're watching this and you're interested in this kind of stuff, this was probably a key show in your collection. It certainly was in mine. Specifically the second set. I didn't know too much about the first set until, I don't know, a decade and a half ago or so, but back in the 80s, the late 80s, mid 80s, I knew the second set really well, but the first set, which really came as a revelation when I got to know it, because it's a tremendous first set. And just a couple of things in context. Grateful Dead had kind of come off the road in late 73 without Donna Jean in the band for those last 3 weeks of 73. Of course, she was having a baby, or she was getting ready to have a baby, which she had in January of 74. So Donna Jean's back, so you get the full arrangement of the Grateful Dead, and a few new songs. As you probably look through the Dead's career, oftentimes the first shows of the year is when they debut things. Think of February 77 with Terrapin Station and Estimated Profit, and think of 89 at the Kaiser shows. They debuted a bunch of stuff. Think of 93 debuted. The first shows of the year is a good time. They've had some time off. Think of Maples Pavilion 73, a year before our Dave's Picks 13 show at Stanford University. Debuted a whole bunch of stuff. But at these shows in Winterland, they debuted US Blues, which of course the year before had kind of come out as a song called Wave That Flag, but in very different lyrics and a little bit of a different arrangement. And then, so that debuted at these shows, as did Ship of Fools, and It Must Have Been the Roses. Garcia and Hunter were writing some very good songs at the time, as they always were. You know, what am I gonna say? It's great stuff. So we got debuts of that. The first set has a few I think some really great stuff. Opens up with the aforementioned US Blues. The mix takes a little bit to get into shape, but it really does click in. Now, this was recorded by Kid Candelario. I love his recordings. They're terrific separation of all the instruments. You really get the clarity of hearing everybody, and everybody incredibly clearly, and this is one of his best, I think. A couple other really key things in that first set. Love the Candyman. Absolutely, of course, love the China Rider. And another big one for me is, of course, Playing in the Band, which I don't think it's any secret. It's one of my favorite songs from this era, really from any era, but 72 to 74. Just absolutely spectacular. So you've got this really great first set, nice and long, typical good length of it. But it's the second set, as is commonly the case in a show like this where it's at. And 73, 74, you were pretty much getting one of the big jams, which is either Dark Star or the other one. And in this case, it's a Dark Star, and it's a big Dark Star, and it's a good one. It hits some incredibly jazzy moments. Billy, you know, the one drummer arrangement of the Grateful Dead could really take the Dead into turning on a dime kind of directions. You know, you think of all those great Dark Stars in 72, 73, 74. That's what I'm talking about. The Dark Star is really the centerpiece. There's a lot of other good music in this first set, in the second set. I'm really a fan of this Bertha in the second set. I think it's a great tempo and a great arrangement of Bertha that they were doing in 74. Somebody I know once referred to the 74 arrangement of Bertha, maybe not this specific version, but generally the arrangement almost as kind of a reggae tinged kind of thing. And I'm really hearing my voice. It's a little off. I lost my voice about a week ago. It's just kind of coming back now. has nothing to do with anything. So great Bertha, but then when we get to the Dark Star, CD3 is one of those CDs that you kind of get asked, what's your desert island dead? And I'll tell you, one that comes to mind is Oakland Stadium, 10/9/76. The shows when the Dead were opening for The Who. I think that second set, the St. Stephen night, I think the second night is also really good. But that first night, 10/9/76, was really one of my favorites. Dick's Picks Volume 33, if you're interested in that. And this third disc is also one of those discs that if I could, take 10 discs away with me on a desert island, kind of I'm on right now, it would be this third disc with the Dark Star. One of those tremendous and introspective, I think is a good word for it, introspective Dark Stars, which is just to say it goes to some deep, dark places. Jerry really kind of starts ripping up the Tiger a lot, the Tiger Jam, not the guitar, of course, and then they go into, I think, one of the finest versions of Morning Dew of that era. And by that era, I mean 72 to 74, which is saying a lot. There's really good Morning Dews. The one they played in October, also at Winterland, is another one of those dews. The Encore in Louisville in June, also one of them. The ones they played in Boston a couple months before in December, November, December. So there's a lot of good Morning Dews at the time. This one is one of the best. And then, as Dick's notes, we reprinted Dick's notes in this one. As Dick's notes say, and you'd think that would kind of be close to the end of the show, but they went on for another half hour. They did a great Sugar Mag and then a ripping arrangement of Not Fade, Going Down the Road, Not Fade Away. Great stuff. And then, here's a real capper on this one, is the Encore was It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, which is a bit of a shocker because the Dead were playing Baby Blue in in the mid-60s, a little bit in the late 60s, a little bit in 1970, and then they dropped it, and then they played a little bit in the fall of 72, like barely, and then they dropped it again in September of 72, and then all of a sudden it appears here 18 months later, whatever it is, 16, 17 months later, it appears as the Encore here in a really cool arrangement. Jerry's really into it vocally, he's just bang on. He's one of those things that you point to is, how do you tell when Jerry's on? It's like this kind of thing is what you can tell when Jerry's on. And then they dropped it again for 7 more years. They didn't bust it out again until 1981, I think. So yeah, it's a really cool way to end 3 nights. Now, the other 2 nights of this run, also really good, particularly I think the middle night. I think the first night's really good. I think the second night is almost the equal of this one, so don't be surprised if that comes out someday. But for now, we're doing February 24th, 1974, Dave's Picks Volume 13. You're probably aware, so I'm going to drop you here anyway, just so you can stay tuned in a couple months. For Dave's Picks Volume 14, which is going to be March 26th, 1972 at the Academy of Music in New York City. Great show. But anyhow, we'll get into that another time. So anyhow, go to DeadNet. These things sell out really fast. I'm Dave, here to bring you news on the Dave's Picks with these videos 4 times a year, bringing you the sunshine 4 times a year. So enjoy it. I really think this is a monster show. Should have come out a long time ago. It was almost too obvious. It's kind of why it had not come out till now. It was kind of one of those shows, you almost don't think about it because you kind of want to dig a little deeper sometimes, but sometimes it's right there in front of you, the best shows, and this is certainly one of them. So check it out, February 24th, 1974. I love it. I think you will. Great stuff.